It's 6 p.m. on a Thursday here in Korea. Welcome to our newscast. I'm Daniel Che. Let's begin with the headlines. With China finally on the same page, the 15-member UN Security Council will meet to review what is said to be the strongest sanctions yet on North Korea. To provide much-needed assistance to companies bleeding money after the abrupt shutdown of the inter-Korean Kaesong industrial complex, the South Korean government pledges a package of special emergency loans. And to mark her third-year anniversary at the top office, President Park Geunhye visited innovation centers to rally young job seekers and startup companies, emphasizing the importance of new growth engines. Members of the UN Security Council will assemble at the UN headquarters in New York on Thursday on the implementation of new, stronger sanctions on North Korea. This as the US and China officially declared they've agreed on a new draft resolution. Kwon So-hwa starts us off.
The strongest sanctions ever imposed on North Korea are expected to be adopted at the UN Security Council very soon. The 15 members of the Council will convene for a meeting Thursday afternoon at the UN headquarters in New York to review the new draft resolution. This as the United States and China have finally reached an agreement on that draft, which, according to the White House Wednesday, goes beyond previous resolutions. The U.S.-China accord is deemed a breakthrough, as the two superpowers not only wield veto power on the Council, but were the two countries that have been clashing most about the level of sanctions to be imposed on Pyongyang. Seoul's foreign ministry said Thursday that the resolution includes powerful and effective elements like none seen before, based on an earlier draft submitted by South Korea, but the ministry did not elaborate on the details.
Various unconfirmed reports on the content of the draft resolution have been appearing, but we ask you to understand we cannot give any details on that, nor are we at the stage where we can find out, as there has not been a final agreement reached on the resolution.
Anonymous sources say key North Korean agencies, such as the General Reconnaissance Bureau, which is in charge of intelligence operations, and the Ministry of Atomic Energy Industry and the National Aerospace Development Administration, which oversee the regime's nuclear and missile programs, are expected to be sanctioned. Meanwhile, South Korea and the U.S. will continue their talks on the North Korea sanctions on Friday, when Assistant Secretary of State for East Asian and Pacific Affairs Daniel Russell is scheduled to meet with officials at Seoul's foreign ministry. Kwon So-hwa, Arirang News.
President Park Geunhye celebrated 3 years at the top office by visiting the Daejeon branch of Korea's recently established innovation centers. There, she stressed job creation and economic revitalization through new growth engines. The national chain of centers has already attracted over $120 million in investment, while helping some 800 startups turn their ideas into businesses. At the Daejeon Center, job seekers and startups who received one-stop services shared their experiences with the president. She also video conferenced startups taking part at this year's Mobile World Congress in Barcelona, hearing how the Innovation Center supported their debut on the international stage. Today, President Park enters her 4th year in office. For Part 4 of our special 5-part report, Song Ji-sun takes a look at the key words that have shaped the president's public remarks, reflecting her time in office thus far.
What was President Park Geunhye's key focus during her past 3 years in office? The presidential office has analyzed over 1,000 remarks the president has made in public speeches and press briefings using big data. The word she has used the most is people, which she mentioned over 5,000 times, followed by Republic of Korea. Next on the list was the economy, which has certainly been a key focus for her since her inauguration.
어렵게 시작한 경기 회복의 불씨를 반드시 살려내서 경제를 활성화하고 민생을 안정시키는데 국가적 역량을 집중해 나갈 것입니다. 창의와 혁신의 기반을 둔 경제로 체질을 바꿔가면서 국민소득 4만 불 시대를 여는 기반을 다져가겠습니다. 그동안 추진해온 경제혁신 3개년 계획을 잘 마무리하고 창조 경제와 문화 융성을 확실하게 뿌리 내려서 우리 경제의 활력과 일자리를 만들어 갈 것입니다.
The president has also made frequent mention of the phrase creative economy, reflecting her continued emphasis on growth through entrepreneurship. Other key phrases on the list were also about the economy, including economic revitalization, economic innovation, and job creation. The president's creative economy drive is now in full swing, with the launch of 17 centers completed last year. The centers aim to foster startups by matching them with advisors and corporate partners that can help them launch their businesses. Young job seekers can also get help at the employment zones within the centers.
Thanks to the mentoring from the Innovation Center and technical support from Kaesong, we finally succeeded in developing a heat inducer using carbon fiber.
I moved to a new town and it was difficult to find a new job on my own. Then I heard that the local employment and welfare center was hosting an employment fair. That's how I found my job.
In keeping with these initiatives, President Park has vowed that 2016 will be the year that people feel the effects of the policies she's put in place and called on the people to help the country make another leap. Song Ji-sun, Arirang News.
Fearing the Anti-Terrorism Act will give the nation's top spy agency undue power to wiretap civilians, the main opposition party pulled out the filibuster card. Kim Young-gil has more on the action that continues to delay a vote on that controversial bill.
The ruling minority party has characterized the opposition bloc's filibuster as an act of terrorism against public safety. Its floor leader said Thursday that at a time of heightened tensions on the peninsula, the mechanisms in the bill are indispensable to countering threats from North Korea.
On top of its armed provocations, North Korea is threatening us with terror and cyber attacks, and even plotting to target the South Korean presidential office. The opposition bloc should immediately stop trying to hold the bill up.
The main opposition Minju Party of Korea initiated the filibuster because of concerns about a potential abuse of power by the National Intelligence Service, which has been embroiled in numerous political scandals over the years, including allegations of election meddling.
South Korean citizens now know that the security bill is a bill to empower the National Intelligence Service. This bill will allow the agency to engage in surveillance of people's private communications and give it unlimited power to track down financial transactions.
The party launched the filibuster after National Assembly Speaker Chung Lee-hwa decided to use his authority to bring the bill up for a vote. Despite its objections to the bill, the Minju Party said it would reconsider if the ruling party agreed to revise the bill to limit the spy agency's power. Kim Young-gil, Arirang News.
The opposition party's filibuster has refocused the public attention on public affairs. Our Shin Se-min took to the streets to hear what some of their opinions were on the subject.
The main opposition party's filibuster of a contentious counterterrorism bill at the National Assembly has captured the public's attention. The word filibuster, the anti-terrorism bill, and the names of opposition party lawmakers topped the search list on Naver, Korea's biggest web portal. And the hashtags filibuster and counterterrorism bill are trending on social networking services. Even National Assembly TV, which is live streaming the filibuster, has racked up its highest ratings since the station's founding in 2004. The Minju Party of Korea initiated the filibuster to block the counterterrorism bill, which it says will only empower the spy agency to conduct surveillance on civilians, while the ruling party claims the measures in the bill will better protect the country from terror threats. This sharp division between the parties is reflected in public opinion.
Instead of delaying state affairs, I believe the ongoing filibuster should come to an end.
I hope the nation becomes more secure with the counterterrorism law by filtering out any potential threats.
I'm worried that the government will be able to monitor private conversations without a warrant when terrorism is suspected.
I don't understand why the issue was brought up after North Korea's fourth nuclear test. Our country has been able to maintain the security we have until now.
With the ongoing standstill at the parliament triggered by the continuous filibuster, the public's attention has been refocused on state affairs. 신세민, Arirang News.
Moving on, the South Korean government is all geared up to support ailing companies with operations in the inter-Korean Kaesong complex that are suffering from losses due to the abrupt shutdown. Today, it laid out a financial support package of emergency loans. Hwang Ji-hye has the details.
South Korea on Thursday pledged to offer 550 billion won, or roughly $450 million in special loans to firms with factories in the inter-Korean Kaesong industrial complex. The companies have been hit hard by the shutdown of the complex announced by the government earlier this month in response to North Korea's launch of a long-range missile. The halt was a surprise for the 124 firms operating there. The financial support package ironed out during a meeting by a special government task force will carry low interest rates and relaxed lending criteria. The total is larger than the emergency loans provided when the Kaesong complex was closed in 2013. Back then, South Korea made around $280 million in loans available to the companies. On top of the loan package, the government will begin a special investigation into losses incurred by the Kaesong companies next month. The firms themselves estimate their initial losses to be around $650 million, including investments, operational costs, and raw materials. But with the companies expecting their losses to pile up over time, they're urging the Seoul government to offer its full support. Hwang Ji-hye, Arirang News.
Global banks haven't been doing so well in the face of weak global growth and falling commodity prices. With global economic conditions far from a recovery, their profits are hanging on the line. Kim Min-ji brings us the digits.
In a reflection of the slow global economy, banks in Europe are finding it harder and harder to make a profit. Standard Chartered posted its first annual loss in 26 years on the back of restructuring costs and faltering commodity prices. The bank's pre-tax loss stood at $1.5 billion, missing analysts' projection of $1.4 billion. It wasn't much different for HSBC. The bank posted a loss of $1.3 billion in the fourth quarter of last year, which was in stark contrast to the profit of more than $500 million it recorded in the same period in 2014. But in what could be a ray of light, banks in the U.S. are faring relatively well. According to the U.S. Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation, nearly 6,200 commercial banks in the states posted a combined net profit of $40.8 billion, up almost 12% from a year ago.
The U.S. is seeing a modest recovery, but in Europe, even though countries are undertaking stimulus measures, many global banks are going through restructuring. This can differ by bank, but the ones with greater exposure to emerging markets are being hit.
On top of that, with many central banks adopting negative interest rates, experts aren't predicting a rosy outlook, as the sub-zero rates will lower the net interest margin, which in turn will pull down banks' operating profits. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
Seoulites or Seoul residents are moving away from the capital to neighboring Gyeonggi-do province. Why? The rent in the capital is becoming unbearable, a trend that's likely to continue. Our Oh Soo-young sheds light on this phenomenon.
More and more Seoul residents are leaving the capital for the suburbs to avoid the ever-rising cost of housing. A new report from Statistics Korea shows that around 6,800 people moved out of Seoul in January, the biggest exodus among the 17 cities surveyed. The number was also double what it was in 2015, adding to the increasing outflow that year, which hit an 18-year high at 137,000. The biggest reason people have for moving out of Seoul is the skyrocketing cost of rental security deposits. The rental deposit system called jeonse is unique to Korea. It requires tenants to deposit a given percentage of a rental property's value instead of paying monthly rent. The cost of security deposits in Seoul shot up almost 8% last month from the year before, compared to the national average of 5.5%. With prices rising, 2 in 3 Seoul residents went looking for cheaper homes in neighbouring Gyeonggi-do province, which is close enough for those looking to commute to work. Last month, 9,000 people moved to Gyeonggi-do, which has been the most popular place for Seoul residents leaving the capital for 11 straight months.
I recently moved to Seongnam. Because of the high rental cost in Seoul, I think many people are moving to nearby cities.
Experts say that the exodus from the capital is likely to continue for the foreseeable future.
Rental costs in Seoul will continue to rise for the time being as landlords need to keep up their earnings margins to support expensive maintenance fees. This means more people may seek residence elsewhere.
The expert predicts the jeonse system could eventually exhaust itself if deposits continue to soar. Instead, housing contracts could shift towards a monthly rental system. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
And with that, we've come to the end of this hour's newscast. And as always, thank you for watching.